This is Hollywood, really densely populated area, which is hugely important for laundromats. We prominently advertise the Ozone sanitization. It's one of our big selling points, and our customers really appreciate it. So my name's Joe, and I've been in laundromats for about 5 years now. I've actually been on the hunt, working with Danny for almost a decade. It was a long process before I actually got my first laundromat. I have scouted seemingly every street in Los Angeles. People will talk about a certain laundromat, and they tell me an intersection, or they might describe it, and immediately I know which one they're talking about. So, worked with Danny for a long time. We made so many calls. At first it felt like I was just beating my head against a brick wall. But then finally, about 5 years ago, we got our first location, and I operated that for a while, really got my feet under me, made sure I understood the industry and understood what I was doing. And then after a couple of years, I got my second and third location, and right now I'm actually building out my fourth location. So, and still on the hunt for 5, 6, and 15. So I've had an eclectic professional life. I've done a lot of things: sales, management, finance, business development. I've done a lot of stuff. And the thing I like about laundromats is it's a great investment for people who want their business to keep running without always having their fingers in the midst of everything. I've got 4 stores now, and all 4 of them are operating, and I don't have to be there on the premises, controlling the day-to-day and overseeing employees. It does take some management, but compared to literally any other kind of business, what it takes is significantly less. You can coach your employees, look at how clean the store is and the things that they're doing, and that's easy to coach. You don't have to be there on the spot like in a sales job, where you might have to actually witness the interaction in order to give them the coaching. So it's a much easier business to manage, especially if you're looking to grow to multiple locations. If you're looking for one location, there might be other businesses that might be a little more comfortable for people. You won't have to deal with as many characters as you get in laundromats. You know, you're always meeting new and exciting people. But if you do want to grow, if you do want to scale, this is a great industry to be in. Welcome to Hollywood. This is you can consider either my second or third store. I've had it since 2021. I got the second and third store at exactly the same time. I was working on the build out of both of them at the same time. That was a very fun experience. This is Hollywood, really densely populated area, which is hugely important for laundromats. I mean, most businesses are going to benefit from that dense population, but with laundromats, you got to just have people churning through, washing their clothes every week. The more people you got living around you, the more margin for error you have. You can make more mistakes and have less financial impact than if you're really, really beholden to every single customer in a small town. That's not to say that we don't take good care of our customers, we really do, but we have a lot of customers here that we get to serve. So this is the front of the store. It's great. It's along one of the busiest thoroughfares in Hollywood. I love the front because it's a really wide store, which may not seem like that big of a deal, but some of the laundromats you get out there, especially if you're using Danny's method and you're just picking from what's already out there, sometimes you're getting these bowling alley stores that are very, very small. If you're just driving by them, it's really easy to miss them. But their total square footage is still fine because they're very deep stores, but they're very narrow. This is kind of the opposite. We've got a nice wide store, so anybody who's driving by is going to be able to see it. Even if they're focused on the traffic, they're going to drive by and they're going to see the big 24-hour laundromat sign. Also, we prominently advertise the Ozone sanitization in the store. It's one of our big selling points, and our customers really appreciate it. We'll get to more on that inside when we talk about it. Let's go inside and check out the store. Because this is a pretty densely populated area and our parking is not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. So we went with 450G machines with Electrolux. That's big. because people are able to get in, their clothes come out pretty dry out of the washers, and then in a matter of about 20 minutes, they can dry their clothes and be on their way. When you're trying to service as many people as you can, it's great to have them in and out in 45 minutes as opposed to 2 hours. This is about 3,400 square feet all in all. This actual area is probably about 2,500 square feet, but we've got a lot of area in the back room that we use for storage and that kind of stuff. We went with 4 80-pound, those are our largest washing machines. They're 80 pounds, they're 8 loads, and those get a ton of usage as people walk in the door and they see those great big machines. Then we've got 2 rows of 450G machines. Again, they have a really high extract and they get the clothes almost dry and very, very clean. Customers always talk about how great the clothes come out here. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're spinning at 450 Gs and extracting all of that dirty water out of the clothes, so they come out super clean. If you look up on the wall over here, follow me, this is the Ozone sanitizer system that I was talking about. It's great because customers do appreciate the fact that their clothes get sanitized, and anybody who used the machine before them, they're not necessarily going to be catching anything that was on their clothes. You know, if someone comes in and they're sick, they've got the sniffles or whatever, in most places that could pass on from one person to another. With the Ozone sanitizer, it completely kills all of the bacteria and it makes the machines smell great. One of the things that Danny will talk about when he's on calls with you, with landlords, is he talks about running a store right and doing it well. And he talks about getting the lint trap cleaned and maintaining a facility, which is really important because your landlords want to make sure that, you know, you're not tearing apart their facility and it's not going to be falling apart. Well, it just so happens that this morning I had the sump pump company come in, they cleaned out the lint trap, they sucked it all out, and the guy, his only job is to drive around and suck out the lint traps and all the other gross smelling things from different places. He commented on the fact that our lint trap didn't smell at all. And he looked at it and he said, wow, you've got a ton of lint. You know, you really needed this job done, but it doesn't smell. It doesn't have the normal smell. And I said, oh, I'm almost certain it's because of the Ozone sanitizing system. And he agreed. He'd never heard of it, but when I explained to him what it was, he agreed. So we have 3 different size dryers. We went with the single or double machines, and then one that will dry 3 and 4 load machines. And then we have a couple of really big ones for those 8 load washers. We have full cycle pricing. So when the customer comes in, they start the machine. They don't have to try to guess at how many quarters it's going to take to actually dry their clothes. They come in, they put their load in. This one costs $3. The smaller dryers cost $2. They start it for that amount, and that's enough that it's going to get their whole load completely dry. It's great. It saves them time, saves them money, and gets them through the process a lot quicker than, you know, checking every 5 minutes. It's great. Customers really appreciate that. These are the large dryers. They get a ton of usage. They're just sitting still right now, but they're great. Customers really appreciate them because, again, they can put a whole week's worth of laundry, get it washed, and then get it dry all in one shot. It's great. All of our dryers, one of the benefits of Electrolux, this shouldn't be a commercial for Electrolux, but all of our dryers are reversing direction dryers. You'll see that one just was going one way, it stopped, now it's going to turn the opposite way. And that's great because the customers, they end up drying their clothes quicker. There's less wear and tear on the clothes, and they don't get as balled up, and they don't have to bake those clothes to get what's at the center of that bundle. So it's great. Again, we put this laundromat together trying to put the customers at the forefront, make things easier, less complicated, and just nice for customers. And customers, you know, they may not notice every single detail on their first trip, but when we see the regulars come through again and again and again, at different times they'll comment on, oh, this is a great part of using your laundromat. That's why I never go to the place down the street or the other place. It's not only is it clean and easy to use, but there's this cool feature. And they comment on the reverse direction dryers. They comment on the fact that they can use a credit card or they can use coin. It's their choice. If they're using coins, they can drop a dollar coin or they can drop quarters. It's a lot easier, especially if they're doing $10 or $15 worth of wash. It's a lot easier to drop $10 coins than it is to drop 40 quarters. And customers may not notice that the very first time, but after they've done a few weeks worth of laundry, they notice it and they appreciate it. For anybody who wants to go with a dual coin setup with the dollar coins and the quarters, it's nice if you have something that shows the customers what exactly they're going to be getting, because that's the most common concern, the most common question. You can call it a complaint. The most common thing that customers come up, they say, hey, I put my $20 bill in and it shorted me however many dollars. And then we look at it and we actually show them, no, these are dollar coins, these are quarters. And once they understand that, once they're explained that, then it goes a lot easier and they understand the way our machines work. If they didn't have this display, that would just be that many more customers that would, put a $5 bill in, they get $4 coins, 4 quarters, they count it and they say, well, that's not right, I'm short. So it helps. We built this store. When we built it, I built it with the idea of over capacity. We wanted to make sure that it could just run and run and run and run. And it's awesome that we did that. It's awesome that we made those decisions, because at the end of the day, we did a lot more business in this store than we were initially expecting. So that over capacity that we built it for turns out to be just about the right capacity. So these machines have a hopper that will hold about $4,000 worth of quarters and about $4,000 worth of dollar coins. It goes a long ways, and it's very helpful. So I got Danny's DVD in 2014, it might have been 2013, but it's been about a decade now. And I immediately dug into the course and started scouting. And it took a couple of years to actually get my first location. And what I would say to anybody who's considering using Danny's course and using his services to help acquire your laundromat, Danny's course is great for first-timers because it's like training wheels. If you're riding your bike, you got your training wheels on, you're not going to fall over. You're not going to crash. You're not going to wreck. He's going to keep you from crashing. He's going to keep you from making any mistakes, and you're going to get a store that it's going to operate successfully. A lot of the things that I got from that early on, and I still utilize, is all of my stores are painted a bright white. There's typically a very small accent color. We typically use green. That'll probably remain the same going forward. A little bit different shade of green we've experimented with, but essentially customers walk in, they see nice, bright, clean walls. Lots of lighting. You have to make sure that the place isn't dingy and dark. Customers need to feel safe when they come in, and if half of your lights are burnt out, or if you're trying to save, 50 cents by turning your lights off or having them on timers or motion activated sensors, any of the crazy stuff I read out there, customers just, they look at it and they're completely turned off. Danny advocates nice, bright, clean laundromat, and the customers respond to that. Maybe it's nighttime, they're driving by, they see it glowing all in the neighborhood, and they know that you're going to be open, and they know that they're going to be in a safe, clean environment. We're real big on making sure that we have lots of carts, that customers don't have to search around for a cart. There should be empty carts waiting for them. Even on your busiest days, having extra carts, really having more carts than you could possibly use. And that's important because you want to make a chore, something that customers don't want to do anyways, you want to make it as easy as possible. If they're already dreading doing the chore, they shouldn't be dreading coming to your laundromat. The same goes with folding tables. If they get through, they do their wash, they do their dry, they're pulling it out, they pull their load out into the cart, and then they're searching around looking for a folding table, trust me, that's the last time they're ever going to come to your laundromat. They're going to go to the place down the street, might cost them a little bit more, might have more out-of-order machines or whatever their trade-off is going to be, but at least when they get their clothes out of the dryer, they're able to fold them right away. And the same thing goes with folding. It's really like a reverse of a funnel. You want to have more drying capacity than you have washers. You want to have more folding capacity than you have dryers, because each step along the way, you don't want a customer to have a halfway done chore and then be stuck without the ability to complete it. I would much rather a customer not be able to find a washer, which doesn't happen too often, but if it does, I'd much rather them wait a minute for a washer and then be able to complete the chore, including drying and folding. without any delays. And Danny, that's part of Danny's course, making sure that the customers are able to complete it. A couple of the other things that are really important from Danny's DVD, this is really fundamental. It's the entire point of the DVD, but no matter how inexpensive a place may be, never buy it. There's laundromats everywhere. Right now I can think of 4 or 5 that if the terms are right, I could go out and lease today. Why would you buy a location, and by buying a location, you have no ability to negotiate with the landlord and make sure that the terms are set up so that you'll be successful. You're subject to whatever the last operator negotiated when they were getting started, or the operator before them, or before them, or before them, because you never know how long ago that it was negotiated and how those increases have accumulated along the way. It's much better. Go have the conversation with the landlord and make sure that you're starting from a position where you'll be successful and you won't fall flat on your face. Out of the 4 laundromats I have now, 3 of them are currently operating. The 4th one, we're right in the middle of a retool. Maybe by the next video, I'll be able to show you around a completely renovated location. Of the 3 that I got, each deal was a little bit different. And that's really part of what happens when you use Danny's method. If you're buying stores, if you're just going out, you're talking to a broker, they tell you how much it's going to be, you either cut a check or you don't, or maybe you get financing or you don't. With Danny's method, you have to be somewhat flexible and understand what it is that the landlord wants to get out of the space, and really what they're capable of getting out of the space. So my very first location I got for 90 cents a square foot right here in LA. An amazing deal. That would be a great deal, I think, in any small town. In Los Angeles, it was a no-brainer. So that store has done historically well. The volume that store does is not as big as, say, for instance, this store in the densely populated Hollywood area, but it's a no-brainer at that cost structure. So that was the first location I got. As I said earlier, the second and third location I actually got at just about the same time, and that was this store, as well as another one that I actually ended up purchasing the building. So in that deal, I was talking to the landlord about leasing the space from them, and he was kind of back and forth and back and forth. He didn't know exactly how much he wanted, and he actually started to go up in the price, and I kind of turned off a little bit. And then I came to find out after having those conversations with him that he was actually interested in selling the location. He just wanted to walk away from the industry and move into retirement. So we started talking about a purchase, but then his wife got involved, and she said, well, she's a little bit younger than him, and she said, well, that's great for his retirement, but I'm worried that if we sell now, we might run out of money. So because of all that, I talked with the landlord, put a really small amount of money down, essentially what could be considered kind of like what a lot of landlords ask for, a lease deposit, put roughly that amount down, and the owner actually financed the entirety of the building after that. And it was great because he gets a stream of income. He for the next, we financed it out for 30 years. You don't see commercial financing for 30 years, but it's what worked for this particular, well, he would have been a landlord, but the seller, and it made him happy, his wife happy, me happy. It worked for everybody. And in using Danny's method, that's really what you have to listen for, is you have to listen, what does the landlord want? What's their holdup? Why are they interested in moving on from the current tenant, or why are they interested in renting to you as opposed to keep operating it themselves? There's so many little details that you have to listen for, which is great. If you don't really catch on to some of those details, that's what Danny's great at. During every call that you see on YouTube, or every call that you hear if you're doing them with him, he's gonna catch some little tiny detail that there's no way I come close to catching all of those details. And he'll comment on it, and as soon as he says it, I go, oh, why didn't I hear that? Why didn't I catch that? Well, that's what Danny's great at. So that was the second location, and then this was either the second or third location as well. They happened at the same time. This was a more typical lease, and we didn't get quite the deal that we got at the first store. Wasn't that much higher, but because it's in Hollywood, it's a densely populated location, we still knew it was a no-brainer. We could not possibly lose with the amount of money that we're spending on rent. So this location spent the longest in talking to any landlord, because we kept chasing down the leasing agent, and we couldn't get calls back. We finally talked to him. We sent out an LOI, but there was just no response. There wasn't a counter. There wasn't any type of conversation about our offer wasn't good. Nothing like that. There was just dead air. Well, finally spoke with someone at a distributor, and they knew a different person within the same leasing company. Talked to that person, found out what the ask was, which was actually a little lower than what the first leasing agent was saying, and we knew just snap it up. No negotiations, because at that rate, there was no negotiations to do. That's basically it. The fourth one, and this is the great part of being in this industry. Now I've made a lot of connections with different distributors and really even landlords. I've talked to a few of them, and they know my name. I'll call them on a property or a certain plaza, and they'll tell me what the scoop is on that particular location. Well, at my fourth location, a distributor came to me and said, "Hey, I've got a deal that it sounds like it's set up pretty well for you." He described where it was, described the size of the location. It's almost 4,000 square feet. It was a great deal. The landlord just wants to go back to being a landlord. She was operating it. She doesn't want to operate it. She wasn't doing a particularly good job, and she just wants to go back to being a landlord. So the distributor, he heard all of those details. He said, "Wow, I think Joe would really benefit from this." So he brought it to my attention. I talked with the landlord, and we got a lease, and we're right in the middle of retooling. It's great. So, like I said earlier, one of the reasons that I got into this business, and one of the reasons I love this business, is I've got a bunch of different locations, and they're all operating without me being with my fingers on the pulse of what's happening in every business at every minute. So one of the ways that that's the best is by operating your stores 24 hours. All of my locations are open 24 hours, and some of them do a ton of business at night, some of them don't do as much business in the night. It kind of depends on the personality of the store. But one of the nice things about being open 24 hours is I don't have to worry about security as much as someone who is closed during the middle of the night. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but the thing is, if you've got customers in your store, if you do have an attendant who's there to clean up, vandals aren't going to come in and mess around. On the other hand, if your last wash is at 9 p.m. and the customer knows they've got a window from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. the next morning where there's nobody in the location, but there's a bunch of money sitting there unguarded, that's when you're going to have problems. So by operating your store 24 hours, even if there's the chance of a customer coming in, that's going to keep the vandals from coming in and messing around. So that's one of the benefits of operating for 24 hours. The other one is that while you sleep, you keep making money. You're paying the same rent whether you operate for 24 hours or 12 hours or anywhere in between. You're paying the same note for your equipment. You're paying the utilities whether you're open or not. I mean, if you turn off lights, it's going to be a little less, but not much. So in any way you look at it, your costs are going to stay roughly the same, and it's just, can you get any business at all, or are you going to stay closed and not do any business between 10 or 9 or 10 o'clock and 6 a.m. the next morning? It's just really a no-brainer. If you're not open 24 hours, you're missing big time, both the income coming in as well as the added security of being open.
I'm pretty sure this hot water heater's got a few more good years left in it.